Is this thing on? I've almost forgotten how to do this. Buckle up. It could be a long one. I will see you on the other side. Well, hello and welcome to this edition of Gary Knits, Gary Rides, a Craftivism podcast. I have no idea what episode number it is. It's been so long since I've done one of these, but it'll be listed in the title. I hope you are well. I hope you are enjoying this cozy winter holiday season wherever you are. It's hard pressed to call it winter here. We did have some cold, but it has been in the 80s almost this week. So hopefully we'll get a little bit cooler weather so I can enjoy some of my hand knits. But I hope you're well. My name is Gary. I am a knitter and a crocheter, and every couple of weeks or I shouldn't say that, whenever I decide to, I come here to this corner of YouTube to share what I've been working on and to give you all some ideas on how we can take our love of crafting and do a little bit of good in the world. As noted, sorry, the dog is now scratching at the door because she needs some attention, but I'm not going to let her in. As I mentioned, it has been a hot minute, and I'm going to try to keep all of this relatively brief, but I do feel like some explanation may be in order. When last we spoke, I think I was about to head out on vacation, so that's probably early October. And that, in fact, did happen. We went to Italy, southern Italy specifically. We started out in Naples, and then we drove about 4 hours further south to the very end of the boot before you get to Sicily, to Calabria, and spent a week there as well. It is always great to be in Italy. It is right now always great to be outside of the US. Had an okay time. I was probably not my favorite vacation ever. That's more of a me thing than an Italy thing. Actually, Naples, I loved. I think we both loved it a lot. Just incredible history. It's a really cool city. I had no idea how kind of a vertical it was. It's basically built into the side of a hill. So we definitely got our glute exercises up and down stairs because we were staying kind of in a neighborhood up at the top of the hill. But really, really enjoyed Naples. Obviously, the pizza was fantastic. We went to Pompeii, which was incredible, and to Herculaneum, which was also very cool. We met some really great people, some friends of friends, some folks who were our tour guides at Pompeii, and then at the Archaeological Museum in Naples. But really, really enjoyed Naples. I think much more than I was expecting. I think that maybe in the past, the city's gotten a bit of a bad reputation as being just loud and noisy and kind of rough around the edges. And I guess it's all those things a little bit, but it's just a big city. I mean, it's I guess having spent most of my adult life in New York, kind of dirty and loud is kind of baseline for my expectations of what a city is going to be like. But we really enjoyed that. And then, as I said, we drove, kind of skipped the Amalfi Coast and drove on further south. My husband really wanted to spend some time in Calabria. Absolutely beautiful, stunning, kind of mountains, and but I kind of fell into a bit of a funk, and part of it was, I think, I think it would have been a great place to be for sort of a hiking, outdoorsy kind of vacation, but that's not what we kind of had planned. And otherwise, that region is not really a big tourist region. It's very rural. Again, as I said, natural beauty. And then I think a lot of people go there during the warmer parts of the year for beaches, because the beach resorts on both coasts down there are supposed to be quite nice, and a lot of Italians specifically go down there. But I just kind of fell into a bit of a funk. I think part of it was Just kind of the overall weight of everything that has been going on here in the States this year, and kind of being away from that, and it kind of had a chance to kind of wash over it. And then just a lot of kind of reflection on what am I doing here in terms of YouTube and more broadly social media. I think that, I've spent a lot of time thinking about, the role that social media companies and big tech companies have played in kind of the rise of right wing extremism here in the States, and the sort of fascist takeover of the government, and how complicit I am in that by participating in these ecosystems. I will say up front, I don't want to beat myself up or anybody else up any more than I don't think I should be beating anybody up or myself up for what we're doing. Certainly, certain people rely on these platforms for their livelihood, and that is what it is. I don't, and so it kind of made me question kind of what am I doing, and I. Starting in January this last year, like we've made a lot of changes. Like we cut Amazon out of our lives and Whole Foods out of our lives, so we had to find a new place to shop. We shifted most of our grocery shopping to the farmers markets. We stopped shopping at Target. We never shopped at Walmart, but stopped shopping at Home Depot, and anyone that has been sort of wrapped up in all of the stuff that ICE and the other secret police are doing. But and I'd completely gotten myself off of Facebook, deleted almost 20 years probably worth of content over there, and kind of walked away from that because Facebook has become just a complete slop mill. But Mark Zuckerberg is also in charge of Instagram, and is knee deep in the rise of what is going on in the U.S. And so I spent a lot of time, deleted basically almost everything off of Instagram, and kind of put everything on hold over there. And then I guess just kind of while I was going through all this thinking on vacation, I kind of just reflected on this channel and what I'm doing, and the amount of work that goes into it for what. And kind of came back and was just sort of like, I don't really feel like right now doing a recap of the holiday and what I was working on. And then things just kind of got crazy in life, and so work stuff got super busy there for a couple weeks, working on a couple of big projects with deadlines, and didn't have time to do it. And then then it just sort of didn't happen, and I was okay with that, and I kind of felt okay. And so maybe I just needed to take a bit of a break, or reevaluate how much how often I want to do these things, and kind of feel like maybe when the mood strikes me I do them, and don't feel so compelled to stick to a every 2 week schedule. It's challenging. Sit down and take the time to film it, probably take twice as long as it takes to film it to edit it. And then given the topics that I like to talk about, trying to find craftivism ideas out out there, and when I don't have something to talk about, I always feel guilt about doing that. So just kind of trying to take a little bit of pressure off all the way around. So I think that probably a lot of folks are feeling similar feelings, and obviously this has been a very difficult year across the board, not just here in the US. I mean, the extremists have been on the rise in other countries. I said that it's always great to be outside the U.S. I don't want to be wearing rose-colored glasses that think that things are all that much different in Italy. Obviously, the heirs to Mussolini's party have come into power there. I do think that the U.S. is a little unique in how extreme things have gotten, and the sort of disappearing of people, and just sort of the lack of complete accountability for the groups that are kidnapping people off the street is much more akin to kind of dictatorships from the 70s in South and Central America than I think what's happening in Europe, which is just sort of more of a rise of right-wing parties and kind of anti-immigrant sentiment, which is going on all over the world. But all that's to say, it's been a hard year. I think it's been a hard year for everyone. I'm trying to be a little gentle on myself. We can't do everything. I think some days all you're going to be able to do is get up and make it through the day, take care of yourself and take care of your family. And that is enough. And when we have the bandwidth and the headspace to do more, we do more. There are some encouraging signs out there in terms of a lot of special elections and things that have happened, and there's a big swing in the other direction. So hopefully we can maintain that momentum into the midterms, and at least slow the tide. I think it's going to be tough to completely reverse what has been a 50-year project to kind of do away with what we think of as American democracy, but I think that there's some green shoots, as they say, on the horizon in terms of things moving the other direction. So that's kind of an explanation, I guess, of kind of what's been on my mind and what's kind of kept me from being as visible and out there as I can be. I will say, what does that look like going forward? I don't know. My expectation right now is that maybe I will film a real episode like this, once a month. And then, I've been thinking about the craftivism side of things. Is that the issue is sometimes things come up in between episodes, but there's a time issue. It's like someone's doing something for a certain amount of time, and I don't get to cover it because it falls in between things. If I'm filming less frequently, just to keep my head and time free. I mean, that's the other thing, is I enjoyed a little bit of this sort of lack of engagement, as I got a lot more knitting and also a lot of reading, which is great. But going back to what I was saying, sorry for the ramble, but I think that one of the things I'm thinking about doing is, if the timing works, include what I can in an episode, and then use YouTube Shorts as a way to bring things on a more timely basis. I don't need to edit them. It's just a quick come on camera, talk about something that I saw, and send it out to all of you. So you get it on a timely basis. It doesn't take a lot of time for me, and I can kind of do that on the fly. And there's stuff stuff going on. I will say, I don't think that I will be on Instagram like I have been in the past. Part of it is I used that to grow an audience to help me raise money for AIDS Life Cycle. A little bit more about something coming on that down the line, but that's not happening anymore. So I raised the money I was looking to raise. I'm about to sneeze, I think. And we're back. So I don't have the same use of Instagram. I like the community and the people that I've sort of met along the way, but I do feel like and everyone's opinion may vary on this, I do feel like Zuckerberg is among the more evil of the evil ones. And so the less I can contribute in whatever way to Meta's platform, the better. So, I'll continue to put stories up over there occasionally, but you're not going to see as much content from me over there. I'm over on Bluesky. I know it's just one more platform for people to sign up for, but I do like that just because there's no algorithm and you get to curate what you want to see. There's no slop in terms of like ads, which increasingly Instagram, every time I bring it up, is just like, for every two things I see from people I follow, there's like some crazy ad for something that, someone's trying to sell me. So, all that's to say is I will probably continue on YouTube. Google is no great shakes either, in terms of what they're doing in terms of AI and ruining the environment with all their data centers and all that stuff. But for now, I will continue to do that because I think I like doing it, and so there's I like sharing here. I like bringing things that other people were working on in terms of raising money or raising awareness or whatever. I like bringing that to people's attention. So for the time being, let's say I'll try to do one of these every month, and then in between, as Craftivism stuff pops into my view, I will try to do that through shorts. So that was a long-winded. That was my vacation, and why when I came back, nothing has happened. Except I've been extremely busy with work, with family stuff. My sister was here visiting, which was great to spend a little bit of time with her. She was mainly with my parents. My father had a ankle replacement surgery, which I did not even know was a thing. And so for that first week, she was over there kind of helping out with him. Everything seems to have gone fine. So it was, just he was having trouble walking, and it was getting to the point where was going to be, let's do this surgery, or you're probably going to be in a wheelchair most of the time. So hopefully that all works out. But while she was here, we got to go to the Southern California Fiber Fair, which was a ton of fun. We didn't go, she was leaving, and so I went and picked her up, and then we went there, and then she came back here, and we took her to the airport for a late flight back to the East Coast. So we went on the Sunday instead of the Saturday. I've only ever been on the Saturday, which is usually pretty busy. But Sunday was really nice and kind of chill. It was, I think, still busy. People were there, and everyone that I spoke to vendor-wise seemed to be having a great show. So that's great. They moved it into a bigger building. It's at the LA County Fairgrounds, which is out in Pomona. So they moved into the bigger building. There were definitely more vendors, and each year it gets better and bigger, which is great. They actually had some classes this year, so they set up kind of on the side some little sort of temporary classroom type things and did some classes there. And then they historically have also done. It's a big building, and kind of in kind of a center area of the building, they'll set up a bunch of these giant round tables that probably seat like 10 to 12 people. And some of the vendors will do these kind of like mini classes where they'll, talk about a little technique, and it's really a way for them to kind of highlight their product as well. So that was going on, but it was a nice time. It was great to see a bunch of folks. I didn't do much on the shopping front, but I did get a couple things, so I will show those at the end when we go through acquisitions. And then it's just been kind of rolling into the holidays, so we've had some holiday parties. My local knitting groups have had their holiday celebrations, most of which involved, well, only one of them, I guess. One of them involved like one of these white elephant exchanges, which was fun. The other one, which is here at the local library, we had a holiday potluck this week. So that was a lot of fun. And everything's starting to slow back down. I did find a new knitting group. I shouldn't say I just found them. I had seen them posting on Instagram. It's a local queer men's fiber arts group that meets not too far of a drive, which is great. And I'd seen their Instagram account, but I never knew how to figure out when they were doing things. It was just like posting of their of their events, and quite frankly, I was just too kind of like shy to reach out and say like, where do you guys meet? Which is so silly of me, but it is what it is. But then finally I saw that they had a link to a meetup in their Instagram profile. So I went on and got connected. And so I think I'm going to try to go, they meet every other week. And so I'm going to try to go this weekend. So that should be fun. I'm looking forward to, I know one of the guys in the group, I think he may be actually even the leader, is the guy who taught me brioche at my local yarn store. So that'd be cool. I haven't seen him that's probably been, 4 or 5 years now. So I haven't seen him since then. So this should be fun. I'm looking forward to checking it out. And then I think there's a couple more meetups from my local groups here before the rush of the holidays. So that should be fun. Let's see what else we can talk about Craftivism quickly before we move into the actual knitting, and there's a lot to talk about. So, a couple things on Craftivism. Knit the Rainbow. I talk about them all the time, but they're in the height of their collection season right now for hats and scarves and gloves and socks and all that stuff that they distribute to homeless and at-risk LGBTQ plus youth in a number of cities around the country. Links to them and links to everything that I talk about today will be down in the what do we call those? Show notes down below. See, the rest is still getting worked out. And here is a QR code. If you're not watching this on your mobile device, you can scan that and it will take you to the Google Doc that's going to have links to all the patterns and yarns and craftivism ideas that I mentioned today. So Knit the Rainbow, if you are holding on to stuff, go ahead and get that sent in. I've got a pile. Got 2 things I'm working on, and when those are done, that's going to be it for this year. And I'm going to get those in the mail because I think they, a lot of their distribution happens, I think, in January and February. They do some around the holidays for some of the agencies they work with for their holiday parties, but I think they're continuing to do that through the kind of coldest months in the Northeast and Midwest. So that's one. On a similar vein. Coven of Stitches, and if I got that name wrong, I'm going to put the correction down here, which is a local yarn store in Northern California. I want to say it's Alameda. But I just saw this posted and I forgot to get all the details down. But outside of their store, on a telephone pole, they have created a kind of tree of hand knit items for folks who are cold and need them to take them. So it looks like they're kind of in little Ziploc bags. There'll be hats and scarves, and there's a little sign that says, if you are cold and need these things, please take them. I assume that folks who go to this yarn store, they're replenishing that over the, as they get used. I'm going to reach out to Yelly, who owns the shop, and just see if it's something that they're collecting for. If so, I'll put up a little short sometime in the next week if get some information on that. But I thought that was a really cool idea, just to have stuff available there for folks in the neighborhood or who happen to be by, that if they are outside and having to spend most of their time outside, that there's an opportunity for them to get something handmade and warm. So that's very sweet. And the last thing is, I mentioned something coming related to AIDS life cycle. As you know, AIDS life cycle as you may not know, but last year was the last year of AIDS life cycle. So after 30 years, that was the last ride from San Francisco to LA. Kind of rising costs have made the production of the event really expensive, and at the same time, post-COVID, recruiting new riders had been harder and harder, and so it was just. I think they felt like they had raised over $300 million over the lifetime of the event, and that they wanted to rethink an event that they could, maybe do something different that was more accessible to more people, so we could get more people involved and had a lower production cost. So what has happened is each of the organizations, so one of the San Francisco AIDS Foundation up in San Francisco and the Los Angeles LGBT Center, which were the 2 beneficiaries of AIDS Life Cycle, have each launched their own smaller cycling events. I think the one in Northern California is called Ride to Zero, which is a reference to zero new transmissions of HIV, which we were very close to hitting before COVID, and then new transmission spiked during COVID. And then the center in LA has launched an event that they're calling Center Ride Out. And I got reached out to by the CEO of the center and the woman who is now the ride director for the inaugural Center Ride Out, to see if I could help out in some way. I would like to ride. It's only a 3-day ride, which is great. And this one's going from Los Angeles down to San Diego, a stop in kind of Riverside County. And they're just going to have one base camp, and then they're going to do the second day, kind of a choose your own adventure ride out towards the desert and back. And they're also going to be raising money, not just for the center, but they're also going to kind of partner up with, I think, an organization in the desert, so Palm Springs, and then in San Diego, to raise a little bit of money for them as well. And like I said, I would like to ride. One of the things that has also come up since last we spoke is I'm kind of rehabbing a bit of a knee issue. It's nothing serious. We've done all the imaging. There's nothing there. I thought it was just, you're pushing 60 and this is the beginning of, the decline of your knees. But they said, no, the knees look great. So it's something about just the way that I'm doing some exercises and probably just a weak posterior chain because I haven't been riding my bike like I used to. So that's something in the new year that I'm hoping to do. But it's touch and go. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to ride, but I am committed 100% to raising money for this event, specifically for what they're calling the Community Engagement Fund, which is a fund that they build up for first-time riders and riders in kind of underrepresented communities. So the trans community, the lesbian community, BIPOC, Latino communities that have historically had some representation on ALC, but not as much as they would like, and that would be representative of the greater LGBTQ plus community. And so that fund is kind of like a scholarship fund. So they use that to help folks who may be having trouble raising the minimum fundraising they need to do. And, as things get towards the end, if they need a little push to get them over the finish line, they use that money to do that. So I said, I love that. They had a similar fund for AIDS Life Cycle the last couple of years, and I raised some money for that. And I said, I would love to raise money for that, and also to the degree that it's at all helpful, kind of mentor, talk to new riders about fundraising, about training if they want to hear anything about that, but about fundraising, and just kind of brainstorm with them about how they can, raise money, because I started out doing, friends and family and just sending out a letter like everybody does, and then found a way to kind of incorporate something I love in the knitting crocheting world to start the make-alongs, and then finally, and here we are, to destash for good. So we want to raise, they would love to raise $50,000 for this fund. I said that I would be happy to do another mega destash for good early in the new year to sort of try to jumpstart the fundraising for the Community Engagement Fund, with the goal of hopefully raising $7,000 to $10,000 from destash for good. So if you are a longtime participant in the destash for good auctions, stay tuned for that. If you have been a seller in the destash for good auctions, nothing like spending a week between Christmas and New Year going through your stash and figuring out maybe what could find another home somewhere. So look for listings to start. I'll start taking listings pretty quickly after the new year for folks to list their yarn. Same rules and everything as usual. You can keep up to 50% of the sales price. The other 50% or more is going to be donated to Center Ride Out. I keep wanting to say AIDS Life Cycle, but Center Ride Out Community Engagement Fund. And I've also reached out on Instagram to a bunch of dyers. If you remember, one of the ones probably at the beginning of last year, or maybe it was the last year I did the ride. We did a thing where I reached out to dyers to see if they had excess inventory, stuff that didn't sell, or one of a kinds, or dye mistakes, or just stuff that retired basis, stuff that they were kind of holding on to, but it was taking up inventory, and so they couldn't, if they can't get rid of it, they can't go out and buy more yarn to do what they really wanted to do, which is dye yarn. And we worked out a deal where I would buy the yarn from them at some price and then use it in the auction to destash. And just for transparency's sake, I don't reimburse myself for that. That's kind of my donation, is the money I spend to get that yarn in. So I've gotten a great response so far from the dyer community. As always, they've stepped up, and the knitting community is, and dyeing community is amazing, or has been for me in this case. So we've got a great response. So I think it's going to be a big sale, and hopefully we'll have a lot of really cool yarn to sell. So stay tuned for that. And I don't know if there'll be another one during the year or not. The center ride out is earlier in the year than Age Life Cycle used to be. So that used to be in June, but because they're riding out to the desert and kind of in here in Southern California is a lot hotter, so they're pushing it to April. So, I want to get the auction done, the money raised by hopefully like mid-February, end of February at the latest, so that the money's there and able to be dispersed to the riders well ahead of when their fundraising deadlines are. So watch out for that coming soon. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll raise a lot of money for this great cause. I would just a second on the cause, because Age Life Cycle funded the work that the center does in HIV, AIDS, treatment and education and prevention. This fundraiser is for the broader work of the center, which is it is the largest LGBTQ plus organization in the world. It is a massive undertaking that they do. They have a big campus in West Hollywood where they house over 100 at-risk youth in like apartment style living, and over 100 at-risk seniors. And so they provide them meals and housing for the kids, which I think goes up to like early 20s, because it's a lot of these are folks who have aged out of the foster system, but they have education. So I think there is a high school on right on campus where they can get their GED if they don't have it, but there are other job training things. So they have because they provide a lot of meals, there's a big industrial kitchen, and so a lot of them are trained in food services. There's a music studio that I think Fender and Gibson help finance so they can learn music production. I think there's some maybe a film studio and stuff as well. So there's a lot of things to try to transition these young people out of the supportive living that they have there into being able to be independent and living on their own. In addition to all of that, the center is a nationally recognized healthcare center, so they provide healthcare of all sorts to the community, and they have outposts in East LA, which is primarily a Latino community, South Central, which is mainly African American community, and then also there's one in Koreatown, which is their trans wellness center. So they cover a ton of services across the community and have a lot of touch points in LA. It's a huge undertaking, and because of the communities they serve, the regime has basically cut all of their funding. So it has been a devastating year for not just the center, but any organization that deals with the LGBTQ plus community. Most of their funding has dried up, and they're not alone. I mean, it's public media, it's everywhere. But they do such incredible work that it's really critical, and they are keeping folks housed and fed, and basic needs met. So it's really important. It's something that touches me. I've seen firsthand the work that they're doing and how impactful it is for these communities. So look for the D-Stash for Good sale coming, and grab some great yarn. And if you are a dyer or a notions maker or bag maker, and you want to reach out to find out how you can offload some excess stuff to me, just reach out to the email down at the in the show notes. So 34 minutes in, and we're going to get to the knitting now. So I appreciate you sticking with me. One thing that we're going to do before we get to the knitting is we're going to do a giveaway. One of the other things is where I was like, I've still got a bunch of stuff to give away, so I got to keep filming these things so I can give stuff away. So I don't know what it's going to be, but it will be either a skein of yarn or a bag or something. But we're going to do a giveaway for every episode, and this time I'm going to talk a little bit about Advents and Advent knitting here in a minute. So drop a comment down below, and mention Advent in the thing, whether you tell me your favorite Advent calendar that you've gotten this year or an Advent pattern that you like. I will also link to, I've got a bundle up on Ravelry, which I've been collecting over the last couple of years of Advent patterns because I'm always just fascinated with them. And there's some bundles of bundles in there, so other people's bundles are included in mine. So go check that out. But drop a comment down below. Advent is the prompt, and you will be entered into a drawing for something. I didn't plan ahead for what it's going to be, but it'll be something cool. Anyway, let's talk about knitting. FOs. I took with me on our trip to Italy. It was the kickoff for the Stephen West Knits Mystery Knit-A-Long was while we were on the road. So I took all of that yarn with me and got cast on and through Clue 1, definitely, because I had to rip out a big chunk of it, and into Clue 2. And I was keeping up pretty well until we got home and things just started to get super busy. And so it took me a little bit, I think it was like a week or a week and a half extra that it took me to finish it. I don't have it to show you. I was really excited about my colors, and I had shown all those before. I thought they looked great together in the skeins. Perhaps it was the order that I picked them in, but I did not love I loved the pattern. It was one of my favorite, Stephen West patterns that I've worked on, with a couple of the little fans in the beginning, I can't remember what the scallops or whatever he called them. I messed up big time on one of them and had to rip out a bunch of it. And that was kind of annoying, but otherwise I really, really enjoyed it. But it was a lot of knitting. I mean, it was a big shawl, but I don't have it to show you. I did not like how it turned out, but my sister did. And so she took it. Here is a picture of it. I should have put this up earlier. So I called it I referred to it as the Pepto-Bismol and Cheetos colorways. But it was a lot of fun to work on. I would happily make it again, but there are just so many Stephen West patterns that I want to work on, so I don't know that I will make it again. But I love the way that it turned out. I've seen some absolutely stunning ones, and I think if you remember, one of the other color palettes I was working on was kind of an all blue, kind of a very cool icy blue, and I think it would have looked great, and that's probably one that I would have kept. But I've got so many shawls, and if it was just going to sit here and not get used, it seemed like a waste. But she was really there's the dog barking. But she enjoyed it, so she took it and took it home with her, and I think she wore it the next day to work, and people liked it. So that was that. But it was a really fun project to work on. I also took with me nothing else that I finished, because those both of those things I'm still working on. So we'll get to those in whips. Another thing that I don't have to show you because it was a gift for my sister for the holidays, but I did my first doodle project. I did the doodle hat, the basic original holiday doodle hat on Ravelry. Here's a photo of that. It was fun. Every time I do stranded color work, I just have so much fun with it. I think that this was all done in Madeline Tosh colors that I'd had for years to make this project, and the goal was to make the hat and a cowl, but I didn't want to tell her that I was doing it, and I wasn't sure which kind of cowl she would like, whether she liked the kind of one that just looked like a turtleneck, or a like a beanie that has the no decreases in the top, or the kind of longer infinity cowl that you wrap around your neck and you double up. And I'm glad that I didn't go ahead, because I would have kind of guessed infinity cowl, but she said no, the other one. So part of her next year's Christmas has been spoiled now, but is going to be the doodle cowl. But at least I know what it's going to which one she likes. So that was a lot of fun. That's on my list for 2026 of things to do. And I got so excited with it that you'll see I bought a couple more of the doodle decks when I was well, no, I guess these weren't at the SoCal. I got them from Yarnacious when she was having her Black Friday sale. So the doodle hat. Oh, one moment. And we're back. I was lying. I took another thing on the trip to Italy that I didn't work a lot on because I got so engaged with the mystery knit-along, but I did finish it relatively soon when I got back, and that is my night shift. So it's a big triangular shawl. This is Andrea Mowry. As I've mentioned before, sometime in the last couple years, Modern Daily Knitting had a sale on the original colors from Spin Cycle that Andrea had used in the sample, and so I liked that. I grabbed those and worked on this. It was it's interesting, and this is the thing with Spin Cycle is you can have two skeins of the exact same colorway and they're gonna be completely different. So I think when she knit up her sample, she must have been very intentional with where she started and stopped certain colors, because in hers you get a lot more of this sort of like contrasty sections and fewer of the ones like this one here where there's less contrast. So it doesn't look exactly like the one in the pictures, but it grew on me. I wasn't loving it while I was working on it, but I've worn it a lot since then, and I really enjoy wearing it. It goes with a ton of stuff. I mean, it would go great with this sweater now. And because it is worsted Aran weight, it goes pretty quickly. And the great thing about Spin Cycle or a color changing yarn is, at least for me, it keeps your interest because you're always waiting for like the next color change, or like how are those two going to look together. So I would I don't think I need another one, but at one point I contemplated giving this away, but I definitely am going to keep it because I've worn it several times and really have enjoyed working on it. I think if I did, I think maybe the shift or the shifty, or there's a cowl version of that, and I think I actually have bought some yarn, not color changing so much, but some variegateds that I was going to use for that. So that was the first time I really used all Spin Cycle in a project, and even after brocking, it's still a more rustic feeling yarn than I'm used to using, since most of what I've done so far has been kind of superwash or merino for sure. So it's a little more rustic, but it was really fun to work on. Couple more. I finished. Here's a picture. Some rainbow socks. A friend had asked for some socks, and so I got her measurements and made those using the Always Be Kind progressive or inclusive pride colorways. So I was able to work on those a bit on the trip as well and get those sent off to her. And I was really nervous because I got her measurements and she had a narrow foot, like significantly smaller than like what I would knit for myself. And because typically in a standard sock the foot circumference is kind of what the leg circumference is going to be, but they felt like really, really tiny to me, and I was like, I hope you don't have giant calves, but they fit her perfectly and she loves them, so I'm very excited about that. I'm enjoying knitting socks for other people, although I still want to build up my own sock cabinet. I think I'm close to having like 2 weeks worth, but I still I'd like to have a little bit more cushion, so I don't have to wash them all so frequently. I finished my longest standing whip. So I mentioned that we were going to talk a little bit about Advent knitting. This was an Advent from 2021. I started it. I looked back at my Ravelry when I finished it a couple weeks ago. Started on December 7th, 2021. It was from Goosey Fibers. It was a Advent themed around To Kill a Mockingbird. So all the colorway names had something to do with something from Kill a Mockingbird. Beautiful colors, 20-gram fingering weight minis. And I think I got through 2 of them and just could not believe that anybody could knit a 20-gram fingering weight mini every single day. I mean, and have anything else going on in their life. So I think I got frustrated because I wasn't going to keep up, and I thought that was how you had to do an advent. And so I kind of put it aside. It was just kind of sitting there by the couch in a little bag and every once in a while, like I maybe would pick it up, and then I'd be like, where I am in the pattern, then put it back down, and other things would get happening. So just midway through this year, I said, you know what? One, I'm not going to order any more advents. I had that one, several more in the closet that have never been touched because just I've never started on them. I think probably out of fear of what happened to the first one. I said, I'm not going to order another advent as much as I love them and I love supporting the dyers. And I just think they're so much fun until I get through some of these. So I said, this is the year I'm going to try to finish this pattern. So I finally did. It's the Habitation Throw by Helen Stewart. So Helen Stewart, if you're not familiar, every year comes out with knit vent, she calls it, but it's like several patterns that are kind of geared toward minis or advents. They're not all using a 24 skein advent, but they all have sort of some minis. And this year's is another. She has another throw in there. She also has the anthology throw, which is the circular one, which is probably something that's going to happen for me. But here it is. It's going to be hard to see, but you'll get the gist of kind of a fade. The colors are really, really nice. And actually I love this project. It makes a nice sized throw and took almost all of the 24 minis. I think I had one left over, and that's probably a me not starting the decreases or starting them too soon, so I ended up finishing it before I got through. But I think it turned out great. Sorry, I mean, it's hard to see this whole thing. It was a little way back. But it's just a great weight, especially for Southern California where it never gets too cold. Just sitting on the sofa watching movies or TV in the evening. It is also covered with dog hair because that's our lives. But yeah, Habitation Throw by Helen Stewart, highly recommend if you have an advent. I think it works particularly well, as a fade. But I have not broken out. I have one DK advent that I think is 24 and a full skein. And then I have another one that's fingering weight. I think it's the same. I think it's 24 tonals and a full skein. But I've been watching a ton of Vlogmases and people doing their advent knitting and getting some great ideas about how to pull it off. And Chaley from Slip Sis is doing 2 blanket projects, but holding it double and then using a DK sort of solid color. So she's doing one that's like a granny stripe, and then the other one which is a motif, and so she's doing the motif in whatever the mini is, held double for a DK weight, and then she's taking the excess and turning it into like a scrappy muscle bar or something. So I think that may be a way to do that, and so I'm kind of looking at that for. I don't know if I'll start it before next Christmas, or maybe I'll try to get one knocked out this year so I can buy an advent next year. I don't know. We'll see. We'll talk about the other one in a minute because it's still a work in progress. The other thing that I finished was a hat for Knit the Rainbow. I was just trying to use up scraps from another hat from the Rainbow, so it's very stripy. So there's some Cascade or some Brava worsted in there, some Felici worsted, the striping in the middle, and then some Mighty Stitch or one of the other Knit Picks colors in the black that I was just really trying to get through use up all the orange, and I was running out and wasn't going to be able to finish the crown, so I was like, okay, we're gonna have to stripe that to make it work. This pattern is called the Warp Speed pattern. Is a free pattern on Instagram, or not Instagram, Ravelry. The designer is called Stash Lounge, and it's one of those where you click through and it's on their website. But just a basic, just a very simple worsted weight, pattern with a swirl decrease at the top, but a great one just to cast it on and go with, no thinking involved. I'm working on another one right now, which I'll show you in a second. So the last thing that I finished is, I mentioned my father had ankle replacement surgery. So he was for the first couple weeks, he was in a cast. Now that's off, but he's in a boot, but he can't wear shoes. He can't put any weight on his leg for like 6 weeks. And so he had his like toes sticking out of the cast, and they were getting cold, but you couldn't put like a regular sock over it. And so my mom was like, well, do you think you could knit like some sort of cover for the toe? And my sister had done that for someone else. And so I was like, oh yeah, I have some yarn here, and I can work it. So I grabbed some. It was funny because I saw her at SoCal Fiber Fry. Some Jada Woo Designs leftover yarn from one of my Mystery Knit-A-Long. So it was a very nice worsted weight. I think it was merino and silk maybe, but it was kind of also camel colored, so it kind of just looked like the cast. And I had to measure the cast, and I did some 3 or 4 inches of ribbing, but then I was like, oh, the ribbing's gonna be really, it'll hold it on there, but it's too tight at the top. So I did some like quick increases, and then because I wanted to be, my sister was just knit it a few inches and then cinch it closed. But I was like, no, we want to make this look nice. So I did some increases, and then I just did like a toe on a big sock toe with the decreases. Here's a picture of how it turned out, but it worked out really, really well. And he's said that not only some people who live in the retirement community where they live, but also when he's been to some follow-up doctor's appointments, everyone's like, wow, that's a very fancy toe cover for your cast. So maybe there is an unmet need there in the marketplace for hand knit toe cozies for people who have gone through either broken bones and have their foot in a cast, or people who are going through foot surgery. So did not write it up for publication on Ravelry, but maybe I should. So that was the last of the FOs. I just thought it was a funny one. In terms of things that I am continuing to work on, one of the things that I took, sorry, there's going to be a lot of reaching here because things are out of reach. One of the things that I took, let me just grab a bunch, on the trip to Italy, because, I wasn't sure on the Mystery Knit-A-Long how much it was going to actually be, good vacation knitting. I didn't think probably on the plane rides, something that complicated was gonna work. And I had the pair of socks, but I thought maybe I'd finish them. So I cast on the Sola scarf by Anne Vencel. It's just one of these little scarves, Sophie scarf-esque kind of things. I had some leftover Cascade 220 Wave in kind of these blues and greens. Excuse me. And I cast on and thought it was going to be, a very easy pattern to just kind of have and pick up. The problem was in getting the increases were not something that were like super easy to memorize. So now I didn't do a ton of work on it because when we got to Calabria, and there just wasn't a ton of stuff to be doing, and after a couple days of spending 4 or 5 hours in the car driving around to little villages, and I kind of hit the wall on the driving because the roads were some of the worst roads I've ever driven on. And just tiny little narrow country roads that you had to, pull off to the side to let other cars pass. It was, a little high stress driving. And so we finally got to this place in the mountains. It was beautiful and kind of this great little town that had, just a couple restaurants, and, you could walk around town. There was some hiking, some light hiking around there, but I was just like, I'm gonna spend the next 2 days knitting. So I actually got a lot done on my Mystery Knit-A-Long. So I didn't get a lot done on this, and I think it's one of the, now I'm to the point where it's just straight until the decreases. So this is one that will be in my social knitting pie. But it's a cute pattern, and this is one of those slow changing, color changing yarn. I think I messed up something here in the middle. I think that's supposed to be a little more raised, but it is what it is. I'm not dropping down to fix it. So I think there's going to be some color changing that goes on, but it'll just be a little, 3-foot scarf, kind of tie around your neck. So Sola Scarf by Anne Vensil. The other thing that I took with me, and I am getting very close, these socks I've been working on for a while. These are the Harriet socks by Summer Lee. I have one done, and I'm past the heel, just in the straightaway on the second one. This is done in a woolen berry colorway called My Courage Always Rises, or something like that. It has to do with Pride and Prejudice. Dropped a stitch that I'm holding on to sew up later. And then I just took some, it was a sock set that came with the stash. It was, it came with the main color. Yarn that was gifted to me by, in a sock exchange that was run by Rachel at Pearls and Polish. So I've really enjoyed this. I love having the little cables. And like I said, I got, I think 13 or 14 more cables to do. So that's multiply that times 4, and that's how many more rounds of things I've got to do before my toe. Goal is to get these knocked out by the new year, and then move on to another sock. Not for me this time, but we'll see. So that is the Harriet sock by Summer Lee. Also working on the Loveland shawl from Tony Lipsy, TL Yarn Crafts. I am about halfway through the second section, which is the striping section. And then there's a lace section. So this is Tunisian crochet. Having fun with it. It's just I'm slow at it. The yarn is Treehouse Knits, the variegated. It is from her Cocoa collection, and it is called Land of the Living. The olive green, which is the stripe, and which will then become the lace section at the end, is a Magpie Fibers. Adela is the greatest in their swanky base. So this is fun. It's pretty good social knitting or social Tunisian crocheting. Very, very dense fabric. And obviously it's Tunisian crochet, so it's curling. Hopefully most of that will block out, or the lace section will weigh it down. But it's going to be a heavy shawl. It's DK weight, but this fabric, the Tunisian knit stitch, which most of it is, gives you this very, very dense fabric. Very cozy, but very, very dense. So this again is one that I would love to get done by the end of the year, but it seems unlikely. Maybe if I focus exclusively on that and the socks, I can get both of those done. There's nothing really else pressing, and no time constraints on anything right now. But I've just kind of gotten down to projects that are fine, but not like super exciting. There's one that has that potato chippy thing to it, but that one is a longer term project, and I'm not going to try to rush through it. So the other thing that is kind of a long term project is my first ever cardigan for myself. So I'm making a very basic, I can show it to you, but it is very basic. It is a very basic set-in sleeve cardigan. I'm using Amy Herzog's sweater handbook book that has different, patterns at different gauges. So you find your gauge in a certain weight, and then she has all the calculations done for you. So this is a sport weight that I'm doing. I just have gotten to the armhole shaping on the back, and so that is the shaping. The decreases are done, so now just in another straightaway section. It is stockinette. It is boring, and I when I wonder why I don't knit many garments, it's because given where we live, everything has to be at a relatively fine gauge and takes forever, and the stuff I want to wear is just the boring stuff. So it's just, stockinette over and over and over again. Fine for TV knitting as long as there's no shaping going on. Pretty good for social knitting, but it's boring. It is. But the good news is the back is the biggest piece, and then the fronts will be will be a little bit. Each one of them is the same as half the back, but it's it'll go a little faster, so hopefully that will keep me interested. I will say, once I picked it up and have started getting closer to some of the shaping, it kind of perked my interest up in it again, and I really would like the final product. So that's just the price you pay for to get to the product. This is not process knitting. This is product knitting. Unlike the Stephen West Mystery Knit-A-Long, which was definitely for me this year process knitting, because 2 clues in, I was like, yeah, this is not product that I'm going to want to hold on to. Last couple of things before I get to the Advent are just hats for charity. So I have another warp speed hat I'm doing in Felice worsted. Just about to start into the stockinette section. Knit picks, if you are watching, please bring back Felice worsted. It's just so great for like quick hats, and I can't believe that it wasn't a good seller for you. But maybe it's just me. Maybe I just loved having striped hats. And the other one is a crocheted hat called Twist and Shout, and I don't know where it is. So this is a crochet hat. This is in rest in peace Joanne Big Twist, which I guess now you can get at Michael's. But if you remember back in the day when they had variegated yarn and kind of all the different pride colorways. So it's not called anything like Trans Pride, but that's what it was. And so this is creating some texture using front and back post double crochets, and it looks kind of like it's getting bigger, but I put it on my head and it still fits pretty well. So I'll get this wrapped up here in the next week or so I can get it in the mail to knit the rainbow. It's kind of crazy. I think the color, the way that the variegation works on that, not my favorite, but we're gonna work through it and just get it done. So I mentioned Advent knitting. So I am working on another Advent from years gone by. This is, I think, the 2023 Always Be Kind yarn holiday socks self-striping that I bought and then didn't cast on. So I thought that this was an Advent that I could actually probably manage this year, and I think I'm right. I think sock Advent may be the way to go for me if I want to actually try to get them done in the month. DK weight definitely makes things even easier. So I've caught up. I've stayed caught up on these. Here is where we are. I did cast one toe on red and one toe green, and I will reverse that on the cuffs. I need to measure these, but I think I'm getting probably a couple days away from being ready to mark the heels. Having a lot of fun with these, but like I said, DK weight. So, 10, 15 minutes max each morning. Each row is only about, or each color is only about three and a half rows. So that's easy to knock out and get that done and feel like I'm accomplishing something. So I wanted to try to do like a chevron. Too lazy to sit down and figure it out on my own. And I wanted something that was like easy to memorize, because I didn't want to have to constantly be referring to something. So I found a pattern. It's called the Dawn and Dusk socks, right? Dawn and Dusk by Debbie Ford. And it's a fingering weight pattern, but the stitch count on the smallest size of her fingering weight pattern were the same as the stitch counts that I needed for my size in DK. Win-win. Now, I guess I'm not technically doing hers because hers is a cuff down, and so I'm basically upside downing these. I'm not changing the stitch pattern. I'm just doing it, and they're going to be kind of the reverse of how hers would have been. They're not going to be particularly cozy, I don't think, because the pattern is done with, I don't know if you can even see them there, but with yarn overs and in a couple of spots. So they're going to be a little holey, but I think for Birkenstock socks around the house, they're going to be just fine. I haven't ever tried DK socks before, so I don't know how well they fit into regular shoes. If you know or thoughts on it, drop them down below. But I think they'll be fun for just kind of house socks and with the Birkenstock. So always be kind. 2023. I don't know if Laura did a countdown this year or not. I know I have last year's Woolens and Nosh, so that will probably become next year's sock advent, or maybe I'll do it again. Maybe I'll do it during the year. Maybe I'll do a birthday month advent, so then I can buy an advent for next year. We'll see. And then the very last thing that I'm working on is not advent, but it is. It would be an okay project, I think, for an advent if you didn't want to use all 24. As I mentioned, we talked about went to Flock this year, and we bought minis. A group of us were all going to work on the same project. Finally, since I finished the Mystery Knit-A-Long, I was able to cast that project on. It is called Butterfly Field by Stephanie Lofton, Telly Belly Knits. We all picked out a bunch of minis at Flock from different dyers, and we're all working on them, although some of us, no one will be named, have ripped theirs out and have moved on to a different project, which is totally fine. But I've made some progress on mine. The goal here is to do kind of targeting one pattern or one chart repeat per week, so that this is going to be a long-standing project, hopefully to be finished by Flock next year. And I think it will be, because you start at the widest point. So at some point, it may get so manageable that I'm able to do a couple of chart repeats a week. But this is the project that I was saying, has some interest for me because one, it's lace, which I'm not particularly adept at, so it takes a little more concentration. It's kind of fun to make sure I'm getting it right. And because I'm using the minis, probably be better if I showed you the right side. Because I'm using the minis, you always have this like, the next color. So the main color that I'm using, so you alternate main color and one of the minis. The main color is from So Happy Jane. I'm going to forget the name of it. It'll be down below because it's from her Winnie the Pooh 100 Acre Wood collection, but it's like a made-up word. It's like exposition or exploration or something like that. And then, see if I can remember these. The first, sort of this pale gray purpley color, is Twisted Ambitions. The second one is Serial Knitters. The third one is also Twisted Ambitions. So I'm about to start the next chart with the main color, and then from there, I don't know. It's kind of a fade. There weren't enough kind of blues to keep it all blues. I think as things get darker, then we move into like an olive and a brown. But there are colors from Fangirl Fibers and Yarnaceous and Three Fates yarn, Capella Luna in there, as well as some more Serial Knitter as well. So it's fun. It's these little dip stitches. I think each of the last flocks we've done a group project, and they've all involved dip stitches. I think on this final little blue section, I finally got through a dip stitch row without making an error. And my stitch count we won't talk about the first couple of chart repeats where stitch counts were not working out, but we finally got back on track, and hopefully we can hold on to that. So I think it'll be, it's definitely going to be one of those patterns where blocking makes a world of difference to really spread the lacy bits out. But I think it'll be a nice project, and it's a good colors for me to wear. So I will keep you updated, and maybe every couple months I'll pop back on with that one and show you where we are progress ride. So that is it. I mean, I'm sorry, we're already past the hour mark. And the only other thing that I have to talk about, and this is really not a FO yet, but it's going to probably be a cast on soon. If you've been watching for a while, you know that when we have kids in our lives that are graduating from high school, I try to make everyone a blanket to take with them wherever they're going, whether that is on to college or to work or whatever, that they just have something handmade. We have one of our friends is graduating this year, and he and I spent some time over in the fall looking at different patterns, and he found one that he liked and settled on some colors. And so it is the Theo blanket from Tony Lipsy. So it's crochet, which is great because it'll be a pretty fast project. But her pattern is a square, and he really wanted it to be a rectangle. I talked about this before, and luckily, you all are wonderful. And Marianne, in a comment to an episode several months ago, gave me some ideas on how to adapt the pattern. So it's all done in linen stitch, and it starts with the square, and then you kind of work on two sides of the square and build that up, over time. So I did some I haven't gotten the yarn yet. I'm going to hopefully get it this weekend. I special ordered it from my local yarn store. Want it to be acrylic because this is, a young man and probably not going to be into hand washing anything. So we found some really great Plymouth Encore worsted tweed, which is 100% acrylic. Looks great. I had bought some samples to show him in some of the tweed stuff that Knit Picks has. So this is Brava tweed, and but Plymouth had more colors, and so we had more options. But what I did was just to swatch it, because I had to do some math to kind of figure out square versus rectangle, how much more yarn I was going to need to make it to the size that we wanted, which is much bigger than what the Tony Lipsy pattern is. So I did a little swatch, and I think it turned out great. I think it's going to be pretty straightforward. Basically, rather than has you start kind of magic circle and go round and round and round for this middle section. And I just did back and forth to create a rectangle. Got the ratio of length to width that we wanted to make it kind of a twin bed size. And then, from there, once we got going, then just kind of followed the pattern. Once we did the first border around in that black color. So I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a really great project to sit and work on watching TV. And because I'm starting early, we have until May or June to try to get done. This I basically was able to do in like a couple hours. So I'm hopeful that, it's going to move pretty quickly, and that is going to turn out great. So once I get the yarn in next time around, I'll probably have cast on. I will show you what's going on. The only other thing that's coming up is the Self-Indulgent Knit-A-Long that Yarniacs, so Gail and Charlene, have run for years over on the Yarniacs podcast, which is starting on the solstice, and I think it runs till the equinox, and it's just a chance to work on something that feels self-indulgent, whether that is the yarn or a pattern you've always wanted to do, or it's something that's a gift for it could be just about anything. But I was feeling that I wanted something to work on for that because I always like to participate, but I didn't feel like there's a shawl that has been sitting on my list and was supposed to be a this year project called the Sunwalker by Melanie Berg. But it's a fingering weight shawl. It's navy blue. I'm working on that sweater that's navy blue, and the sweater, the shawl is very, very pretty, but it's it's not a Stephen West shawl, so it's a very nice sort of textured, and I love the yarn that I'm working on. It's another Treehouse Knits from the Stranger Things collection. But I was like, until I finish the Loveland, I don't feel like I want to start another shawl. So I felt I wanted something small that's going to be quick, but is also kind of like giving me something fun and new to work on. So the two things that I'm going to work on, I think I'm going to cast them both on. I've got 3 months to figure it out. One is the Harlow hat by Andrea Mowry. It's a brioche hat, which I think is very indulgent. And then the yarn, I think, is going to be very self-indulgent. So I'm going to be doing that in this Lola Bean Yarn Company's City So Nice, they named it twice. And this Spin Cycle, which is Color So Nice. So these were a collab that Spin Cycle and Lola Bean did together. So I think I'm going to work on that. I think it'll be a fun brioche project. I always like a hat. If it's too heavy, my sister loves pink, so my sister, you may get a hat. The other thing I'm going to work on, and this is kind of indulgent because I've never worked with this style of yarn that I can think of before. The pattern is called Pania of the Reef. It's a shawl, textured shawl, but it uses a plain yarn and then a gradient. And these are both Knit Circus. This one's called Thanks for All the Fish. And this one is called Cottage by the Sea. So yeah, I've never worked with a gradient. I mean, I don't think there's anything particularly unusual about it. It's kind of like using a Spin Cycle type of yarn. But I just thought that would be fun. It's DK weight, so that's going to go quickly. And I'll have a nice shawl in my colors, for the springtime. So those are the things I'm going to work on. The cast on for this mystery knit-along, self-indulgent knit-along from Yarniacs. But speaking of casting on things, there may be my buddy Nancy from the Knitting in the Northwest podcast, former dyer of Trilogy Yarns, has been teasing about doing a cast-on party. That's where she goes on Zoom basically for all day, and you can join, and if you watch her podcast, she has like 27 projects going at the same time. She has a whip wall, and she kind of rolls the dice and pulls down one, to work on at any given point in time. But it keeps things fresh. But as things wind down, then she does these periods where she does a ton of cast-ons all at once. So she wants to host one of these cast-on parties on Zoom. So I don't know all the details yet, but if she decides to do that, I'll pop a short up to talk about it, because I think she was going to do it between Christmas and New Year's, in which case, if I get the yarn for the Theo blanket, that'll be a good one to cast on. If I finish the Loveland shawl, maybe I'll cast on the Melanie Berg thing. So stay tuned, and I'll give you all the details. It would be cool. I don't know how long, I'm not going to be able to stay for 12 hours, but pop on for a couple hours and just chit chat, and like as people come and go, and show us what you're working on. So I think that'll be a kind of fun idea. So fingers crossed that it happens, and we'll keep you up to date on that. The other last thing to talk about would be acquisitions. So a a little bit on the heart mail side of things, not even mail really. My sister gave me, I'm sorry, all this bending over. I need to figure out, it's better when I do it in the other room when I have the table in front of me. My sister brought me, as sort of a little pre-holiday present, some stitch markers that say 0 days without sarcasm, which is very on brand. And then one of my friends from my local knitting group, she had seen my dancing droplets little scarf. Here's a picture that I made a couple months ago, and she loves to make these like little scarves, Sophie scarves, things like that. But she had never done with in variegated yarn. She'd always only done them in like tonals, and she's like, I don't really have a lot of like DK weight, like variegated yarn. She used to be a dyer, but she only dyed self-striping sock yarn. And I said, Margaret, I have tons of variegated DK weight. Let me pull some out of my stash, and I will happily give you some of that. So I gave her, I pulled out like 6 or 7 skeins, and there are 3 of them that she likes. So she, and I said, please, just take them. But when we saw each other again, because I was gone for a while, she gave me back the other skeins that she didn't take, and she put them in this project bag that she made. Now this, and I'm going to forget who it is something supply company that used to sell these bags, and then they went out of business, and then I think they sold the pattern for a while, but she made it using that pattern, and it's such a great, I can see why these were super popular. It has several pockets inside, this great drawstring, and this leather handle. So she said, in exchange for the yarn, I will gift you this project bag. So it was very sweet. As I said, I didn't buy a lot at SoCal Fiber Fair. I've been trying to keep the stash shrinking. Update, I just checked this morning, and it's probably gonna, maybe there'll be a couple of skeins get wound up put into projects, and those will come out of the stash. I'm negative 267 skeins this year. Now, I didn't knit that much. A lot of that was destash in the beginning of the year. So hopefully I'll have another big chunk to go out this time. But I feel like I'm down to the stuff I really want. So I was not trying to buy a lot of yarn at SoCal Fiber Fair. But while my sister was here, I had her take measurements on my mom and then my mom take measurements on her, because I would like to make garments for them. The problem with trying to make garments for myself is there's just not a ton of men's sweaters that I'm like super jazzed that are in a weight that I would actually wear. There's a ton of stuff I would love to knit, but I haven't quite gotten to the point where I'm just like, I'm going to knit that worsted weight Aran sweater that unless for some reason I am able to to move back to a colder climate, I'm ever going to wear. But I would like to like knit stuff for my mom and my sister. So I had her take the measurements, and I want to do something for my mom first this year. She loves open cardigans. And so I found a bunch of patterns, and I bought some yarn from my friend Sarah at Sea Change Fiber. So she has such great bases, and I'm always like, oh, I want to try that. I bought some of hers at Flock to make a t-shirt for myself. So this is her Shoreline Sport, 325 yards to 100 grams. It is a 50% merino rambouillet, then 25% silk and 25% linen. This color is called Dusk. And I picked out a couple of Isabel Kramer patterns. I can't remember the name of the one that I think we've settled on. Sorry, that one, hopefully I was able to edit it out, but my goodness. I don't know what's going on. We had a really smoggy day, like the worst smog we've had in months. So I don't know if that's part of what this I'm feeling in my throat because I was out and about yesterday. But anyway, I think it's going to be lovely. And it because of the linen, it has a little bit of rustic feel to it in the skein, but Sarah in her booth had some garments that, had been washed a couple times. It's just so soft and drapey. I think it's going to be really nice. I think my mom likes purple. I think it's a great color. So I bought a sweater's quantity of that, but I think that was it in terms of like yarn. I bought a little mini skein from Silver Penny. She had a Taylor Swift collection. I'm not a big Swiftie, but one of the colors, Opaline, something. It's the name of one of the songs on the new album, but was really, really, really pretty. And I just kind of fell in love with the color. So I just bought a mini, and I'm going to use it for heels and toes, or cuffs and heels on a solid sock. But after we got back, then people started having their Black Friday sales, and I love a sale. I love a yarn sale. I love supporting my friends, and so I did go and pick up a couple of things. One was not a Black Friday sale, but Haynes House at Haynes House was doing a thing during the government shutdown. I guess Brian, Terry's husband, must work in the government, so he was furloughed, and so she was running a special to to move some yarn, these sock sets, and you got one of her sock patterns as well. So this one's called "See You in the Morning." I thought it was lovely. I don't know if it'll be socks. The purples are making me think of, like, because I have these contrasting, some sort of shawl situation, maybe also for my mom who loves purple, but it's very, very pretty. And then for Black Friday, I bought some yarn from Laura at Always Be Kind. I'll just show you a couple of them. She was doing sock sets on sale. This one definitely is going to become a sock for me. This one's called Meet Me at Midnight. And then another one that I thought was really pretty that she sent me. These were all mystery, mystery sets, but was this called Fall Frolics. So got a couple of those. Maggie at Yarnaceous was doing a buy 3 get 1 free. One of the things I noticed as I was picking out yarn for my mystery knit-along is where there is a little bit of a void is fuzzy lace weight yarns. I have a bunch of variegated ones, but not a lot of solids. So she was doing this buy 3 get 1 free, and so I got a couple of decks of doodle decks. So I got an autumn and a winter, which has also a bunch of the holiday stuff in there. So got those, and then the other two things I got were her Cosmo Cashmere lace. So this is 81% merino, 19% cashmere, and in this green and this rusty color. So that's just going to go in the stash for when I have, one of these projects that need a fuzzy held with a solid. Although now that I'm looking at this, it's 328 yards per 100 gram. Like, these don't feel 100 grams, which would make it probably not lace weight, even though it says lace. I will have to do some more research, but I thought they were pretty, and it's very, very soft. And then the only other thing I got, I'll just show one of them, but Gabs and Che over at Slip Slip Sis were clearing out some inventory, and I always love I don't need any more bags, although I did buy one that got a mystery bag, but that'll probably be a gift for someone. But I do love their yarn cozies, and so they had a couple of California related ones, avocados, and then there was one that just says California, sort of script of different places in California. So got a couple of those, and then got the mystery bag as well. And I think that is it in terms of everything, clocking in right here at under 90 minutes. Again, I apologize for the length. I like to try to keep these things a little bit shorter. I did feel like, given my absence, maybe a little explanation was maybe not required, but maybe appreciated, or maybe not. Maybe you don't care. But I just wanted to kind of share what had been going on, and kind of what had been my sort of mindset about social media in general, and kind of where I wanted to be in all of that, given how awful the companies that run it are. So anyway, thank you for spending some time with me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like, subscribe, share it with a friend. We continue to try to build this little community, and have a fantastic holiday season, whether you celebrate Christmas, whether you celebrate Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, the solstice, or whether you don't celebrate anything at all. I hope it is a safe and calm and peaceful time for you. I will probably be back sooner than 1 month, because I think what I want to do is kick off the new year with, excuse me, my goodness, with a little New Year's plans. I've started spending a lot of time working on my queue, trying to figure out what I want to be working on in the new year. So I thought maybe we'd do a little review of how many things I worked on last year, and then kind of what's on the plate for going forward. So with that, have a safe holiday season. Be kind to each other. Be kind to yourself. I will see you soon. Take care. Bye.